What is up, YouTube? I am Buddy Blues, and today we're going to talk about this guy. This guy. This guy. We're talking compressors. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen of the blues, to the channel. Today we're talking compressors. So, just like the previous video, if you haven't seen it, I'll link it here. We're going to talk about what a compressor does, but again, it's not going to be a review. It's not going to be an in-depth how a compressor works, and it's going to be very basic. And this entire series is about how I use these pedals and why they ended up on my pedal board. And the reason I chose the Ego is because of that blend knob. And essentially what that blend knob does is you can blend your own signal as opposed to the signal that is compressed through that pedal. The reason I went with a compressor is because I was struggling with hearing the high E note on a Strat. So when I say while playing, it's generally I'm talking about live. So 90% of my working musicianship is live gigs. Another 10% is studio work, where I do sessions for people, or I'm doing studio work where I'm recording our songs. You should buy our CD. So live, whenever I'm playing, I would never be able, so let's say I'm bending that high E, I can never hear the high E. And if I'm playing a chord that has a lot of bass in it, it gets mushy and muddy and all that. And I felt like the dynamics that I had in my hand were all right, I hope. They were all right, I thought. But sometimes it was just too hard. Like there was an attack of a note where it was just spiky. And I saw that when we were recording Wrong Side of the Blues. I saw that on the mix, whatever you call it. What are these fancy people with their thingies? And that's when I noticed that, so on certain notes, when I hit a certain note, there's just a huge spike and it clips, right? So the sound engineer would bring my whole sound down, then I can't hear myself. And then, so it was obvious that I needed help. So I was talking to a fellow guitarist, as we always do, and I was describing my problem to him. I'm like, hey, I can't hear certain strings. I can't hear the high E at all on stage. What's the deal with that? And he says, just get a compressor. So essentially what a compressor does is that it limits the signal. So anything that's low volume that you can't really hear, it brings it up. And everything that's peaking or too high, it'll bring it down. That's without going in depth. Plenty of other YouTubers have done it and they are way better at explaining it than I am. So there we go. I get a compressor, I plug it in, I do a gig, and boom, my problem is solved. I can hear myself better. All the strings and all the notes sound way more clear and level. I sit better in the mix. My playing is more dynamic. My playing is more musical. And any overdrive that I put after that compressor sounds oh so magical. And now, ladies and gentlemen, enough blah blah. I'm going to demonstrate how I use a compressor. All right, so I'm going to play my 1969 inspired Strat through the board. The only thing I've got on right now is nothing. Everything is off. So here's my clean sound, and then I'm going to turn the compressor on and talk a little bit about what it adds. Then we're going to put an overdrive after it. So here's my clean tone. So it sounds pretty good, right? It sounds great and all that, but I feel like it's missing a little bit more musicality and dynamic. Like I need it to be a little bit more spanky, a little bit more dynamic, right? But especially when I'm doing things like it sounds great, but so the pops, so I'm not using my pick. My pick's right here. I'm using just my fingers. So the pops are a little too spiky and a little too high. In a live setting, that you would either jump over the mix, or in a studio setting, it would spike, and you don't want that. And whenever I'm doing that high E, for example, on some bends, you can't really hear it. It's way lower than the other ones. So here's the compressor on. See, right there, everything is more level. Even those mutes, right? Everything sounds way more clear when I'm doing big, heavy, like bass heavy chords. Everything sounds way clear. I had just turned the compressor off. Now we're going to turn it back on. So I've got the sustain knob, which is your compressor pretty much, at a little bit over 9 o'clock. I've got my tone knob, which on the Wampler Ego, the tone knob is not, if you go to 0, it doesn't muffle and kind of like a regular tone knob on an overdrive, for example. That tone knob just adds. So when you're at complete 0, it's your actual real signal. So if you want to brighten it up a bit, because the compressor always, I wouldn't say dull, darkens the sound a bit, you would do that. So I've got mine at around 2 o'clock. The attack, which means when you want the compressor to activate after you've hit the note, I've got that at about 10 o'clock. So that's a little high. My blend is right in the middle. So half of my signal is passing through, and half of the compressed signal from the pedal is also passing through together. And the level is at 10 o'clock, which is unison. So on and off sounds exactly the same. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to put an overdrive. I'm going with the Morning Glory. With the Morning Glory. So you see how my high E sounds exactly as loud as the B string? And here's the Morning Glory without the compressors. Here's the magic that the compressor does once you put it before an overdrive. So with the compressor on, everything's more level, everything's more musical, and it just sounds
awesome.
Thank you so much for tuning in this week, ladies and gentlemen. I have been Buddy Blues, and you have been the people of the blues. Please leave me a like and a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon. We'll be back next week for another pedal shenanigans. Thank you.